Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the CSharpCorner live show. We are back with another episode of CSharpCorner live show. And in this episode, we have none other than joining us, Mr. Mahesh Chand. Mahesh, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Simon. How are you? How's everything there in New Delhi area?
My region is doing fantastic. I think we have recovered from this pandemic and looks like things are getting back to normal and people have started visiting to the office too. But I love my workplace, so definitely not going to office anyway soon.
That's great. That's good to hear. Yeah, things are, not that normal here I am in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Um, Good morning, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody who's joining from different places, all around the globe. We have people joining from US, from Europe, from India, and Asia. So everybody, welcome to the show. Um, as Simon said, this is our weekly show, right, Simon? We're gonna do this every week, same
Yep.
time, and this is 9 a.m. Eastern. What time is in India?
At my time, it is 6:30 evening.
So it's 6:30 p.m. in and sometime in between in Europe, I'm sure. Um, we will do this weekly show, and it's
Hmm.
open chat. People can ask any questions, and the focus of this show is really career advice and guidance. The reason we started the show is there's so many questions. I get just a second. Uh, Sorry about that. Somebody's calling me during the show. That's not good. Uh,
It
so
does happen, right?
it happened. So the reason for this starting weekly show is that we get so many questions. I get so many questions on LinkedIn, on C Sharp Corner, on Twitter, on mostly around career advice, where software developers, or you are a beginner, or you are a student, you just don't know what direction you want to go into, right? You want to become in, you want to go into a software architecture versus project management. You want to go to database side, or you want to go to programming side. You want to start doing coding more, or you want to get into cloud computing. So all those questions combined. So it's better to have this weekly show where people can just ask their questions, and every week we will bring a different guest, or depends on their availability, and they will advise on these topics.
That's fantastic, and I think having it every week gives opportunity to everyone. If someone misses for 1 week, they can definitely join next week, same time, same day, with new guests coming in, and they can come up with the questions and they will be answered. So, apart from this, we also have other live shows that we run on. Monday from this month, we have the Azure AI series that we run 7:30 p.m. IST and 10 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, where we're going to cover the entire ecosystem of the Azure machine learning. Uh, when it comes to Tuesday, same time, we have this ebook launch. We may not do it often, but Tuesdays are usually meant for the book launches. On Wednesday, we do C Sharp Corner MVP show that is dedicated to our community leaders who spend their time in contributing to the community. So that show is dedicated on Wednesday. Thursday, our very popular show that we have in Ask Me Anything series. People just love that show. I think we have crossed over 20 episodes for that live show.
Yeah, that was our first episode, and that's great
Yeah.
start by you, and it's going well. Good morning, everybody. Look, good evening, everybody. Looks like Sri Ram Akash is joining us, and Satyam Garg is joining us. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Again, this show is for you. Feel free to start asking your questions. Any question related to any career guidance, advice, jobs, salaries, startups, companies, consulting, anything you have about, we will try to cover a wide range of questions here. This is not restricted to one or other areas. We'll try to answer as many as questions we can, and this is about 45 minutes show. um, After this, today we have 10 a.m. a different kind of show, which is focused around growth mindset. In growth mindset, focus is totally different. It's not technical, it's not programming, it's more about success, motivation, and how to become change your habits, your mind, and it's all about growth mindset. I'm not going to give away a lot here in this show. You have to join the 10 a.m. Eastern show, which is
Yeah,
right after this show. There's a 15 minutes break.
yeah,
Uh, Good evening, everyone. Suma, good evening, everybody. So yeah, in the meantime, we can start with some common questions, right?
yeah.
And again, this show is for you, everybody who is joining us here. So start asking your questions. Any question is a good question. You start with shooting any question.
Yeah, and I think Manish, while I was going through this event page and on social media platforms, and this is the time where students who are joining us today, this is the time where people are actually joining their colleges, and right, and they cannot actually visit the career institute. So one question that has come very much is that whether they should opt for BCA or they should opt for BTech. I think this is the question that has come maximum in the forum on the social media platform.
Okay, so this is a question coming from students who wants to do
Yeah,
bachelor in computer applications versus computer science, right? Or
yeah,
BTech
yeah,
technology, right? It really depends. And if you look at the long run of a career, right, doesn't matter where you start with, it all depends on where you end, right? I have seen people who started in electrical engineering and they are doing a lot of good programming. They have successfully become software architects. So software is a field where your formal education helps, but it's not really something that restricts you. For example, if you go on other technologies, if you have done, let's say, something in automobile, you can only do that, right? It's hard to move from there. But in software field, it's very, I have seen where people come from even different backgrounds. They don't, some of them don't even have degrees, right? So
yeah.
it really doesn't matter if it's a BCA or BTech, frankly speaking. BTech is a little bit more engineering side, okay? That also covers some of the hardware side, some technologies. So, and BC is 100%, software applications. So it depends on number one, your choice, like what is best for you. Is this a good college, right? Which one is good college? Is it BC or BTech? Which one you can afford, right? Where is can you get more help, guidance in getting jobs? Like which one is more reputed schools, right? Where you will have better networking, where more speakers will come and talk to you, where you'll have more industry visits. That's what matters the most, rather than studies. Because frankly speaking, in BCA versus BTech, a lot of that is really theoretical, right? People just read a lot of books and all that, but which one institutes gives you more chance to do more practical? Go meet people, talk to exposure, working with industry, getting industry visits and all that. So you have to look at the organization, look at the people who are there. You are going to look at their previous batches, like how which one was more successful. So if you look at the success rate, so if you look at that, okay, this college has BCA but 30% placements only, right? But this has a BTEP has 80% of placements. And then ask the previous batches, hey, how was that? What did you like? What do you not like? So you have to really spend a little bit time on thinking on those terms.
Yeah, definitely a couple of good factors to note while you opt for either BC or BTech is to either look at the placements or even talk to the pass out students who are now into this industry. That should definitely help. Let's take a question from Satyam Garg, who is watching us. Satyam goes ahead and asks which technology or which certification can help me with my placement during this pandemic.
So So I'm assuming Satyam does not have a job right now. Okay, so if you look at the trends, what's in demand? If you look at the demand, and it also depends on your local where you live, right? Some companies hiring, more and less depends on the area, right? For example, in US, if you are in this, East Coast, Silicon Valley, there's more jobs in React versus if you are in Boston or Philadelphia. Philadelphia is probably more job on Angular, right? So during this pandemic, good thing is that everybody's working from home. So that's a great part, which means it gives you more time to learn, and explore and do things. You don't have to travel around everywhere where you have to spend few hours just going for interviews, right?
Yeah.
Now, which the technology that is growing and will continue to grow in coming years, not just 1 year, 2 years, several years, is cloud computing. Okay, and you could look at the big cloud computing. There's two: Azure and AWS. So there is plenty of jobs in Azure and AWS. Now Azure and AWS both, they have millions of things to do there, right? There's a data side, there's a programming side, there's application side, there's a AI machine learning side, there's Python. You can do Python in Angular. I mean Python on Azure, Python on AWS. So it really depends on few things like what you have done so far, what is your interest, and what you want to learn more. First ask that, because you are going to be good at something which you like to do, okay? But if you are forced into something, it'll be hard for you to really good at it unless you really work hard, okay? So the short answer is something around cloud. And if you see there's a lot of demand, and I see a lot of demand, Angular is in demand, React is in demand, okay? Mobile application technologies are in demand, all of them, Android and iOS. Then these days, there's more demand coming on even power platforms
Yeah.
or anything automation, right? RPAs are in demand. So really, it's hard to tell which one. And a lot of people want to do certification is a good, it's a validation of what you know. So if you want to certify in one of those, that's great. But I would recommend, besides certification, you also want to build some application, something, before you really go for certification.
Yeah, and when you said building the projects and all, right? I think in the last week we did have a session on open source where you did talk about there was David, and you did talk about the importance of open source and a lot of stuff. You can just go ahead and put your code and share it in the interview. So I think that was also an amazing show that talked about that should help you in the interview. Moving on to the next question that we get from Sri Ram is, I'm an engineering student. I want to place in top company. What are the skills I need?
Okay, I mean that's a great question. Everybody wants to be in top company, right? So
Yeah,
when you say top company, I'm assuming you're thinking about Google, Microsoft, Adobe. Those are some top companies, right? I'm assuming Shriram is in India right now.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So if you look at the what they ask for is really, if you go for a Google interview, they're not going to ask you to write an Angular application, okay? They're not going to ask you to go to cloud and build you just what they will probably ask. They mostly ask is um, logics, right?
yeah.
Logical reasoning. They ask you problem solving. They ask you how you think, right? How your brain works. Are you a fixed mindset or is growth mindset? That's our next session. We are going to talk about the mind, right? So these companies look at basically more of your mindset, how you solve problems. So I would say there's a lot of data structure, a lot of
Yeah.
algorithms, a lot of rather than writing code exactly, they will give you like a puzzle, right? So, and I'm sure you know more. You can add more to this.
Yeah, and I think just a couple of years back when I graduated, I think this was the very same question I asked you in the CSharpCorner annual level conference. And you did tell me that there are multiple platforms out there that will help you with this problem solving skills. They're like HackerRank. There are other more platforms where you just have to don't understand the code, but you also need to go ahead and practice those problem solving that you just said. And I think data structures is something that they would definitely ask. And I think in pan India, they often ask the database skills too these days. I mean, they definitely ask you to do that. And indeed, the reasoning and those things definitely come in the interviews. So, yeah,
And then definitely go ask somebody who's recently, got selected to those companies.
yeah.
So if you want to join Microsoft, the best way to find out what to learn before preparation or interview is ask somebody who just joined or joined within a year. See, that's the best way to find out the answer.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now let's move to the next question that we have is by Suma Harish. She says, "Sir, highlight on career opportunities in IT industry regarding networking, programming, and system analyst."
So this is interesting question, right? Networking has been a part of IT for so long. But
Yeah.
if you look at recent trends with cloud computing, the demand of networking is going less and less because it's all being, everything is moving to cloud. When everything moves to cloud, the networking and resources and servers and machines are automatically managed by the cloud. Okay. So
Mm.
those jobs are diminishing. There's less and less jobs going to be in networking side.
Yeah.
However, there's more jobs in other sides. So still you still want to be in, hardware side. The security jobs are growing. Okay, security is a big demand on the cloud as well as cyber security. There's going to be need of millions, at least 2+ million, security cyber security expert in US alone in next couple of years. Um, and this is going to be, look at how many cyber threats we get every day. There is about 100,000 attacks on different companies, different websites, and that industry is going to grow more and more and more. Programmers, there's always going to be programming needs, that's not going anywhere. But there's one more need is growing, is that is low code no code slash automation. And the region of low code, no code, and automation is very important because these days companies do not have time to build new systems. Every solution has to come really quickly. And by using the cloud, and now cloud supports these automation tools, you can quickly build, working production ready applications in days, sometimes even in hours, which will take you months and months to build if you're building from scratch.
Yeah.
So that in that area is growing. So you got cyber security, you got security, data security, data analytics, and low code, no code, and remote RPA. These jobs are growing.
Yeah, and one quick question that I may be very curious to ask you is that when we say low code, no code, right? So on a way we tell the developers that you don't have to code a lot much, but there's some guys who have really programmed that application really well, right? So it means there are really some programmers who have coded that platform so that you don't have to code that much. So is it like we are taking a good number of people away from programming, whereas there's still good number of people who are getting very better on that part?
Yeah, yeah. So low code, no code really means there is a tool. Think of the Visual Studio, right? What is Visual Studio? In Visual Studio, you create an application, you drag
Yeah,
and drop some controls, it creates code for you.
yeah,
Then you
yeah,
can add more code of your own.
yeah.
But there are platforms where they can also add you a lot more code.
Hmm.
These are the low code no code tools, and there's a lot of them. So what they do, you need to build a website. You open this, even look at the WordPress, right? Look at the WordPress is a perfect example. WordPress is example of low code no code. You go there, you build a CMS tools right there, it's already built for you. All you
Exactly.
do is go add menu, add pages, all that, and your website is ready and up and running, right? Same thing. If you want to build a business ready application, enterprise application, there's different tool for that. If you want to build a application for Azure cloud, there's different tool for that. So depends on that. These tools are available, and even though they some of them require you programming skills because you are getting more into data, how data is being accessed, and how workflow is being built, how business logic is being, you still need the programming requirement, the background there, right? But a lot of code is written by these tools.
Okay, that's perfect. As you talked about some of the booming technologies in the market, the next question that we have is what are some of the technologies that are booming in the market? I think you did mention about the cloud, but what others do you think that will be more focused in this coming 5 to 6 years?
Yeah, so if I look at the growing trends, cloud computing is definitely, when you say cloud computing, good thing with cloud is that it's everything.
Hmm.
Okay, means everything in Azure. Now machine learning and AI is growing, right? Because a lot of things are being automated, a lot of decision
Yeah.
making is done automated, right? So if you look at your email, you get emails every day. You get so many emails. Some go to your spam, some go to your other folder, some go to your inbox. So all that work is done by using machine learning.
Yeah.
If you look at you go to a website, read news or anything, you see different ads. Okay, because you're buying a car or you're buying a shirt, you next day you go to the website, you will see everywhere same shirt ad. They want you
Yeah.
to force you that. So that's done using machine learning.
Yeah.
So these machines are learning your habits, your behavior. So that's why AI in machine learning is growing, because these business logics in decision making is all done in the back end.
Mhm.
So on top of that, this low code, no code is growing. Data is growing because there is so much data analytics, reporting. That is, data scientists are in demand big time. Um, and then if you look at little newer technologies, blockchain is also growing in demand. Okay, so beyond that, if you look at IoTs, so everything is becoming Internet of Things now, right?
Yeah.
If you look at your house, look at your car, look at your mobile phone, and look at even your fan, even look at your thermostats, and even everything is pretty much connected to the internet these days, right? You buy a new watch, smart watch that's connected to the internet. So that everything comes a part of under IoT. So IoT is growing big time because your homes, your cars, yourself, your devices, they're all connected. So data is being fed from these devices going to the cloud. So again, cloud computing. Remember, all the work is being done in the cloud. All the processing is being done in the cloud. Reporting is being done in the cloud. So this all connects. So end of the day, this whole becomes one ecosystem. All you got to do is pick one part of that, what you're interested, what you like the most.
Yeah, and definitely when you talked about the cloud computing and the opportunities that we have, the next question by Paramview is, he says, what are the job opportunities in Salesforce? And I think Microsoft did a very big deal with the Salesforce coming in when it comes to Azure. So what do you think are the opportunities in Salesforce?
Yeah, there is a lot of jobs in Salesforce. It's a good again. Salesforce is a cloud. Okay,
Hmm.
go back to that. It's very niche. It's just limited to certain markets, and they
Yeah.
are just specific to Salesforce, and it's growing. Salesforce alone is growing. So good thing with being in technology field, guys, is that every field is growing except networking, I would say, and DBAs. They're kind of going down those two because now in the cloud most developers can do their own DBA part, a lot of DBA part, right?
Hmm.
So if you look at those two jobs, those are kind of slowing down, but everything else is growing in technology. So if you are into Salesforce, you have a opportunity in Salesforce, have a project in Salesforce, you're learning Salesforce, definitely. But point is that you have to be good at something. I would recommend don't learn 10 things but not good at anything. Don't be jack of, all and master of
Okay.
none. Just
Yeah.
become a master of one, okay? You have to
Yeah.
be really good at one, at least one,
Yeah.
and then know everything else.
Yeah, and when you say that, the very next question is very similar to
Back
what.
to Salesforce, right? Back to
Yeah.
Salesforce. We have a couple of friends. They run companies in Noida and Delhi, and they are Salesforce focused company, and they're always hiring. They're always asking us in CSharpCorner, hey, you have anybody who's interested in Salesforce, who wants to learn Salesforce? So if any of you guys who are into Salesforce or want to get into Salesforce, you can always contact Simon, and you can connect to those companies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we also have one show dedicated to hiring that talks about, we bring the industry experts in the HR team, and where we talk about what they're actually looking for in their next the new employees. And I think maybe we could bring that part too in our next show. Moving on to one of the questions so that you would face a lot is, which platform is better, is either Angular or React for
Okay,
PW?
okay, all right. So let me ask you this question: which ice cream is better, chocolate or vanilla?
I like vanilla, honestly.
Right. So I like chocolate. So it
Okay.
depends. Okay. There's no. It's not about. Okay. This is for PW actually. He's
Yeah.
saying that which platform is better for PWA, Angular or React.
Mhm.
So Angular or React or ASP.NET Core or PHP or Python or Java, they have nothing to do with PWA. Okay? Progressive Web Apps, which by the way, we have a dedicated section and learning series on PWA on C Sharp Corner. And we also have a live, probably going to have a live show just on PWA. It
Okay.
just talks about what PWA is, progressive web apps are, how do you build it. So it just, there are certain things you add in a website that made it progressive web app. Okay. So it has nothing to do with, it could be Angular, it could be React, it could be HTML, CSS, it could be ASP.NET. Plainer the website is, easier it is to make it pro PWA. What does that mean? Means if it's just a HTML and CSS, it's much easier. In JavaScript, it's much easier to implement progressive web app features, make it progressive. If it's Angular and React, then you have to, has to be more work around, because you have to make your app progressive. Means it updates automatically, there's a refresh going on, there's a responsiveness to the website, it works on the mobile and desktop and tablets all together. It, resizes, reshapes, depends on the size of the device. It has notifications, and it has local storage cache. So by adding all those four, five major features, you make an application a progressive web app.
Hmm.
And it also depends on how good you are at these, Angular versus React. So depends on really the person who's doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll ask you one quick question from my end is that we do know that Angular is kind of backed by Google and React is backed by Facebook. But the other third framework that we have is Vue.js, right? And Vue.js comes from the pure community guys. So my quick question is that why don't people actually compare Vue.js with React or Vue.js with Angular? Is it like they have been, these two prior have been marketed by these big companies? That's why people like to talk lot more about it?
Yeah, so obviously Angular is backed by Google, and a lot of enterprises adopted Angular way earlier. Okay, and Angular had a bigger team and bigger, obviously bigger planning behind it. And even Google said that we are building this in Angular. When Google says I'm building this in Angular, companies also think that okay, this must be really good. Same thing with React. When React was launched, Facebook says we are building this. This is our language, and obviously Facebook is a big platform. There is a bigger team behind it. So businesses automatically means large enterprises. They think that if it's Google, Microsoft, or Facebook, bigger companies are supporting these open source project. Take those, because there's chances that they will last longer. There's more things coming toward that. Vue.js is run by, start by a guy. He's local, actually, in New Jersey, not far from me. It's just done by community. So when things done by community, obviously there are challenges. There's good thing and bad thing. And challenges that when I'm an enterprise, do I want to take really risk on community-driven projects? And there's nothing wrong with it, but that's how business decision makers think. If
Okay.
larger companies adopt those platforms, means there's less jobs. And end of the day, all of guys here watching the show, the goal is really to get jobs,
Yeah.
right? So you have less jobs. So that's the reason. View, if you listen, if tomorrow Microsoft says we are building this in Vue.js, out of sudden I can tell you there's more people gonna adapt it.
I hope they do it because I work on Vue.js and I get always very curious that why don't people compare Vue.js with Angular or React? So I think that's a very good reason. I think they're backed by good companies and Vue.js is entirely from community and it does affect the enterprise part. Let's take the other question from Sanjeev. He says, I couldn't find any certification on front-end technologies while most of the back-end technologies, that is Java, .NET or Adobe, do these front-end guys or the framework provide certifications?
So that's a good question. I never thought of that. Like, how come there's no certification in HTML? Because a lot of front end, especially in the web, right? I mean, when you say front end, you can do .NET front end too, right? The
Yeah.
Windows applications are front end too, so you can do front end too. So that's kind of a little bit. Uh, but I think when he say front end, I think he's saying Angular, React, and JavaScript, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and the HTML. And the reason there's no clear defined certification is that they're most all of them are open source projects,
Hmm.
right? So there's no company behind it. The reason you put a lot of the certification was done by these companies, that if you certified from us, companies getting two advantage, that they are, first of all, they're getting a skills skilled developer or a skilled person in that technology, and they're telling, okay, now you're certified, right? Then
Yeah.
now it's a more like, if you look at the long history, it's basically telling that you are proven that you can do certain things in that technologies. So that's the reason I think the certification is on mostly, not, I wouldn't say it's back end, like cloud is not back end or front end, it's just everything, right? So you can be certified in Azure, means you can be a solution architect or developer in Azure. That also means you need to know front end as well. It's just not, yeah, but that's the reason is basically there's no company behind mostly open source front end technologies. But it doesn't mean you cannot go and independently certified on certain platforms. There are certain platforms where you take you learn HTML, you learn JavaScript, you learn React, you learn Angular, you can also get certified there.
Mike is muted. So there are some as you said, there are some third-party companies or the partner organization who pack those certifications, not directly, but definitely from the other part. Let's move to the next one that we have is by Satya once again. He says, "Does multiple language communication helps in getting a good job?" Ooh, that's a good
uh,
question.
what is multiple language in programming language?
I hope when he says communication, he may say like people are doing virtual jobs. So if I know French, it may help me with the working with the clients. If I know English and French, if I know Japanese is very famous in South Pacific Asia these days. He's just asking, does that help to get a better job?
Yes, I think if that's the language means speaking language, then yes, I think depends on the client, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure in the US, I know for a fact, if you know Spanish as well as English, it helps you getting some job, because some jobs require Spanish.
Okay.
And I'm sure if you're working with a company in India and they are more Hindi company, you probably need to know Hindi, right?
Yeah.
Um,
These days, there's
as you
Japanese.
said, if you're working with a German or French company or Chinese company, knowing their local language will definitely help.
Yeah.
And it could be a plus. Some companies will say no, because some German company may not speak English, right? There, so they may say you have to know German.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think it does help. So I think he did ask because if you are joining us from Pacific Asia, people really do mention on the job that if you have multiple language, we prefer you. And for some reason, Japanese and Russian are the language that people have started asking for all of a sudden. So let's take one question from one of our author. He is Ashish Bhatnagar. He writes on Java on C Sharp Corner. He says, being an academician, it becomes very tough to pursue career in corporate sector, even with good tech skills. Also, especially in Java and cloud. How can I switch from academic to corporate sector once again? So I do know that Ashish was someone who worked in the corporate, then he moved to academics. Now, after spending a long time in the academics, he wants to again move back to the corporate. So how should he do to that transition?
So I mean, if you really want to move, you have to ask why you want to move, right? And a lot of people move because there's a more financial gain and opportunities in in you know in the corporate sector. We call it corporate sector, right?
Yeah.
um, then only challenge with corporate sector is that it's a constant learning, right? You cannot just be, while academics is like there is a fixed subjects you're going to teach, right? And there's fixed learning, there's learning, but there's a limited learning there, so you, at least you know the routine. In corporate, every 6 months you have to change, 3 months you have to change, right? And then you
Mhm.
can obviously grow to the limited in both cases. But definitely there's more financial reward in corporate sector, right? Depends on how good you are. um, the only way to get back into that is really to get involved in some projects, say open source project, start working with some team. And these days, good thing is that there's so many open source projects out there on GitHub and on other places. Even you can even partner with some MVPs from CSharpCorner and say, hey, I have this idea, I want to build this project. So you got 3 4 people, got project, and start learning from there. Once you learn from there, try to get some small part-time remote job, like you can do it and slowly learn that. So once you have enough knowledge, then you can probably go certified, and then probably try to get into corporate. That's how slowly I would get into it. And again, cloud is a better way to do it. Clouds, good thing with a lot of things with cloud is that especially Azure and AWS and Google, those three clouds are growing really good. And mostly Azure and AWS, is that a lot of them you don't need to be a coder.
Hmm.
Okay, you don't need to be a coder. It's just like how to create different things, how to manage different things, how to look at the resources, manage resources, build an app service and use it. So there is a much easier path to get into corporate sector or enterprises. And
Perfect.
cloud is in demand, it's growing to demand, and good thing is everything is learning is online available.
Yeah.
So that's what I would think of that.
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of questions coming in the comments, and I think we may run out of time. So I'm going to quickly bring the next question. That is, do you see future in Flutter or Java Kotlin? Will they prevail?
I mean, what do you mean by prevail? Everything is prevailing, like, right? So it's like, and there's nothing one is versus other. It's not like, oh, this is gonna take over everything. This is gonna shut down everything. This is not how it work, right? So
Yeah.
there's going to be Android. There's going to be iOS. Those are two major platform in mobile technologies, right?
Hmm.
And then there is a web and there's a cloud.
Yeah.
So if you look at where the most software is being built today, there's mobile. Mobile means smartphones and all devices. That's two, basically there's two operating systems.
Hmm.
iOS, Apple has iOS, Google has Android. They're both equally important. They both are growing big time.
Yep.
It's never going to happen that Apple is totally done and all, Kotlin took over everything. So
Yeah.
both are there. You could look at the web, Angular, React, and HTML, JavaScript, even Blazor. They're all growing,
Yeah.
right? So whole technology is growing, and it's going to continue to grow for several years. So I would not worry about, just pick any one technology and just be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to pick 10 different and jump around. Don't get confused like, oh, should I do this? Should I do this? Just do one
Hmm.
and just do it, and just start building things, start building open source applications. Start building and learn more and get better at it.
Yeah, definitely. But we're bringing back one of my memories. I mean, I'm not. I mean, you'll definitely remember that there was a time where we worked on this Microsoft UWP apps, Universal Windows apps, right? And they just went away, right? While I was in my graduation, those were the things, but they just went away. So
Yeah, there
that,
are there are some technologies they are not doing good, right? So UWP is one of them where Microsoft tried to push their Windows 8,
yeah,
starting with Windows 8 and Windows platform as a mobile operating system. Yeah, that didn't go far. But
yeah.
I would right now I would stay away from those.
Hmm.
Uh, but as far as if you're building Android, Kotlin is the way to go, not Java. If you
Yeah.
are doing iOS, Swift is the way to go, not Objective C.
Okay.
Yeah, because those
Perfect.
are more modern. They are redesigned, right?
Yeah, and then the next question is very similar from this mobile app development. Ayush says, I want to start my own app development company. So, what is the first thing that he should do?
Okay, so you want to start your own app development. Great. That's great. Congratulations. At least you're thinking about it. That's a growth mindset. Okay. Our
Yeah,
show at 10 o'clock on the same topic, growth mindset, today. So, I mean, one thing I would say is starting, and a lot of people wants to start their companies. I have started several companies. As a matter of fact, in my last 22 years, I have started more than 22 companies. Okay, the biggest challenge is learning from those companies is that it's not about the idea, it's not about the product. Especially in this, a lot of this is all about sales and marketing. Okay, getting the project and getting the work is the hardest part. Okay, especially in your business there's so much competition there. So but that doesn't mean you should not start. You should definitely start your own app development company. But what I would recommend is start slow and partner with more people. Don't just do your own. Like most of us in the beginning think like, okay, I can do everything, and then I am the, I know more than everybody, and I don't need any help. So you should, if you're starting your own company, don't just think that, oh, I have four developers and we can build anything. You need to think of that, who you can bring from marketing side, who you can bring from sales side, who can build the business, bridge between the business, the client, and the developers. So those pieces are very important. That's where you should start with, is have somebody look into the, because you say, oh, I can go get project, I go to this website, I can bid on that, I can get project. That it's easy to get one or two project and manage that and work that and deliver it, but once you start doing, you won't have time for that, and that's where you will fail, because you'll have people, there will not be enough work for them, right? I've been doing this software consulting for many years. I started this in literally 2001. So and I have helped build a lot of these consulting and app development companies here in the US, and a couple of them in India as well. So biggest challenge is find the right partner. If you are young, if you're just starting, I would say get co-founders. Get three of them. One should be an expert in sales and marketing, one should be business side, and one should be technical side. And if one of them even knows finances, that's also equally important. And then you start.
Perfect. So I think there's so much of content that you have. We can have a dedicated show that just talks about how to create your own company or to have your startup. Right. So let's move to the next question. I think that's from Vishwanath. He says, I'm doing MCA. What is the future of .NET? You can spend days on this. I think so. The
Yeah, I
future
can
of
definitely spend on days. If that's MCA is good, future that .NET is good, but very limited. You need to combine .NET with Azure Cloud. Then future is really good. Means building .NET application on Azure. Just building .NET application, web applications, and just building .NET Windows application is not enough these days. So you have to combine with Azure Cloud. If you do anything in .NET, do everything on the cloud. Then you are equally, you have a lot of opportunities there.
Okay, wow, that's something new to take away. The next question that we have is by Kavya. She says, I'm a final year student and I'm preparing for front end developer. What is the future of front end and what better opportunity this field has?
Yeah, front end developer is big demand. Obviously, Angular, React, or HTML, JavaScript, they're all good. You just need to pick one technology. Um, when I say front end, these days there's more demand of, um, I would say, everything, not just front end. Companies expect you to be a full stack developer in long run. Okay, I don't expect you to be full stack right away. You are just student, right? So you
Yeah.
start with front end, then do some middle, some back end. So you at some point, once you are 3 years of experience, you should be a full stack developer. But yeah, front end does start with front end. I would say pick one of them. React is pretty good growing. We can find React developers, and Angular is equally useful and in demand. But before that, you need to understand basics of HTML, JavaScript anyway. So you
Yeah.
need to start with basics, right? HTML, JavaScript is kind of foundation of web pages. Anything you build in the web, you have to know those things. Then you have to understand the browser basics, how browsers work and storage and all that. And PWA, if you add to PWA in that, that's even great.
Okay, perfect. So let's move to the next question that talks about again that, but that is related to Xamarin. How do you predict the future of Xamarin compared to React Native and Flutter?
We do a lot of work in Jamron. We have done a lot of projects in Jamron in the past few years, but right now React Native is growing faster. I see more, depends on the area. I see more demand coming in React Native. So if you have, if somebody comes and asks me, and I advise a lot of startups that, hey, we need to build our next mobile app. What, and it's a hybrid. I mean, it's for everything. um, one platform can we use to build iOS, Android? I would say probably React Native is growing. It's in more demand. And obvious
Perfect.
reason is there's a lot more React developers compared to Xamarin or C Sharp.
Perfect. Perfect. So let's move to the next question. That's by Satyam. He says, what is your advice that can help in building strong resume?
So a strong resume itself is a little, It's a little different. First thing is just I would say look at some of the top templates, take some template samples out there. On C Sharp Corner, we have some templates. You can
Yeah.
ask anybody. We're also launching actually a resume section on C Sharp Corner where it will help our members to create their professional resumes. And it's not about strong or weak resume, it's more about how you want to highlight your strong skill set at top where companies can notice you, and how you can separate your resume with other 10,000 resumes, right? And key thing one I would advise is, guy, don't put everything on resume which you don't know. You have to be very honest. Whatever you have done, just put exactly that on resume. Don't put every word there you can find, and then somebody ask a question and then you don't know what you're talking about. Keep in mind, the person who's interviewing you, they know exactly they've been through the same process. Okay, they have done same thing what you're doing, so you can't really lie on those things. Just don't lie on resumes. That's first thing. That's very strong skill set, I would say. Just be
Mhm.
honest with resume and highlight your strong skills at the top.
Yeah. So I'll just take final question, Mahesh. I think it's time to wrap up, and this is the question that you can definitely help the viewer is: can you give any info on how to find opportunities abroad, like USA, UK, for .NET and Angular experienced developers?
Yeah, definitely. So again, there's technology is growing, demand is growing. There's opportunities abroad as well. So best way would be, start talking to somebody who lives abroad, right? Start asking, hey, what's going on there? And not me, okay? So that's the best way is, do some research online, right? If you search online, how many visas, US is doing, Europe is doing, what kind of Canada is doing, all these countries, and try to go through the somebody's already just recently went through the process, somebody went through these people, just start from that. And again, start asking questions here. You're already asking, that's a good start. So what we will do is, right now we're running out of time, guys.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that we have another show at 10 o'clock. You can also bring some of those questions there as well, because a lot of these questions can apply there. And again, we have this show every Friday now, 9 a.m. Eastern and at 6:30 India time, right?
Yeah.
6:30 or
Yeah.
7:30?
It's 6:30.
6:30 India time. So we will do this again every Friday. Looks like there's a lot of interest. We're going to continue this a weekly show, and maybe we'll extend to 1 hour next time. Uh, but again, come join us in 10 o'clock. There's a now 10 minutes break, and
Yeah.
after 10 minutes, we will be back again on the same live show. It's a
Yeah.
different mind, and we're going to talk about growth mindset. We will take some questions there as well, and that's 1 hour show.
Definitely, and I have shared the link of next live show in the comments, so people can just click on that and join us. And we will see you in next 10 minutes. And thank you for joining this live show.
Thank you so much.